And that's really what I ultimately wanted. I wanted a vehicle that was respectable in the quarter-mile time, but actually very comfortable to drive around in the streets. It was never supposed to be like fighting for every tenth of a second. We have the transmission installed, and it's an HP. All right, guys, so welcome back. Thank you for hanging out, spending a few moments here with me. If you're new, definitely make sure you hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. Now, quite a few people have been reaching out, wondering what's the story with the Charger. The content for it has really slowed down drastically within the last year or two, and there's a few reasons why. Number one is I recently moved out of New York, which required me to basically sell my house, rent down here in Florida, and then figure out a housing permanent situation. So I figured all that out. I finally closed on a house down here, and now I have a garage and I have a place for me to put car parts in. So that was one piece of the puzzle. The number two thing is the parts that are required for this Charger are now becoming very, very expensive. So it's taking me a little while to kind of save up and get the appropriate amount of money so that the job can be done properly. Now, the last time it's been up on the channel was about a month ago. We upgraded the suspension, and that was really needed in order for me to drive around properly without worrying about road quality and the wheel and tire setup hitting the fender. Also, too, it was just time to upgrade the suspension, but it was more so about the body kit as opposed to anything performance related. About a year and a half ago, or even longer, I went ahead and put a twin turbo setup on my Stroker 5.7. So it's a 6.5 397 with a 5.7 block in there. So it's not an SRT block. And it was making around, on 10 pounds of boost, 720 wheel horsepower and about 675 or 680 in torque. And then we bumped it up to 12 pounds of boost, and it was around 770 or 780 wheel horsepower and a slight bump in the torque figures. But the problem was, right after being tuned, the transmission had a big slip, and ever since then, really any kind of major pull, the transmission was giving me a problem. On top of that, the 525 pump that I installed in there and the RT lines really wasn't able to keep up with the 10 pounds of boost. So that's really what's being upgraded at the moment. We have the transmission installed, and it's an hp90 with a Hellcat drive shaft. And I didn't really want to do just a regular hp90 because it seems as though each time that I upgrade the Charger, I always kind of have to redo it because, you know, as you're upgrading a car, you think that you're going to be good at this power level. And, you know, I never really thought I would get to this point in horsepower and torque. I never really set out to be the fastest quarter-mile car. I really just wanted a really fast street car. But each time I hit a certain power level, I've always kind of wondered, hey, maybe I could get a little bit more. So I went ahead and got a Southern Hot Rod War Viking. It's basically the best transmission that you can get your hands on. It's rated for well over what I think I'm going to ever want. And so it's basically a built 90 with a 2800 torque converter. Along with getting the transmission done, we are also pulling out that 525, and now we're going with a triple pump, which is, again, maybe overkill, but I don't ever have to touch it once it's installed. A triple pump is going to be good for, you know, 1300, 1400 wheel horsepower, which is kind of not really where I'm going anyway. I would really like to be in the neighborhood of about 800 wheel horsepower and move on to basically another car and try and start modifying another vehicle on this channel. We are reaching a point with this Charger where it's it's really at the end, and anything more than what it is right now, it's just going to become a uncomfortable drag racing car as opposed to a really quick street racing car. And that's really what I ultimately wanted. I wanted a vehicle that was respectable in the quarter mile time, but actually very comfortable to drive around in the streets. It was never supposed to be like fighting for every 10th of a second. So when I go to the drag strip, a lot of people are going to dog me. It is what it is. I'm not setting it up with suspension. I'm not, gutting it. I'm not doing anything to make it a drag racing vehicle. It's supposed to be a street strip car that has a lot of power. So I'm really kind of nearing the end with this thing, and having the new transmission and the new fueling in there along with that suspension should really take it to its end point with it. There's a couple of other styling points that I would like to do to really tie it all together. And I'm just gonna get it back. I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna have a little bit of fun. I will take it to the drag strip. A lot of people have been reaching out and seeing what when am I gonna go and run it. And I'm more interested in lining up versus other cars as opposed to necessarily like my time. Whether it's a 10.2 car or a 10.5 or a 10.6, that doesn't really weigh on me too much. What I really want to do is throw some drag radials on it and line up versus a Corvette or a Mustang GT, a Pro-Charge Mustang GT, and see how it does versus a lot of the other vehicles. Something that a lot of people need to keep in mind is that I will be operating at 10 to 15 or 10 to 12 pounds of boost. I don't know if I'm going to necessarily keep cranking it up, but I am always set up so that the triple pump, the transmission, the engine is all set up so that I can do it if need be. Again, like I said, you just don't really know how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. And so my opinion has changed a lot through modifying this car. I think if you're going to go modify your car, you should definitely set it up so that you can crank up the horsepower later on, and this way you don't have to redo a lot of the work that you've done already. So a lot of people have told me that in the past, and you think you're good at this level, you're fine, you're gonna be at that level for a certain period of time, and then the itch to go up and up and up just keeps happening. So we'll see. A lot of times you set out for something and then you want a little bit more.